I'd always like to give a little bit of speech about my time in grad school and how important it was and sort of formative. I think that grad school gives us a sort of an opportunity to get a little bit closer with some of the people that we're going to school with and we're in class with. And I feel like the difference before undergrad and grad for me was really just sort of developing these sort of lifelong important relationships, and developing some of those connections that have helped me throughout my career in one form or another. So we're excited to have you guys. I really think it is a sort of important time in people's career, especially in our field, where you can start to meet people who maybe have similar interests or maybe different interests, but they're out there either working currently or they're going to have jobs in the very near future that are could lead to potential pathways for you to develop yourself. It's been really cool. I've been at UCF now for 8 years and working with the graduate program that whole time. And it's been very cool to see our graduates out in the field, working with the teams locally and nationally, all over the place. So we were starting to get a pretty cool connection in a variety of different arenas. So we're hoping to sort of pull you all into this and look forward to what you have to offer and how you're going to grow during your experience with us. I guess I should probably said who I was. I'm David Fukuda. I'm the division chair for kinesiology and the graduate program coordinator. Just a little piece, and I think Renetta is going to speak to us in a little bit. We'll probably hit on this, but the other part that I think that maybe people don't realize for one reason or another, maybe because UCF is so big, but when you're a student, you have access to tons of support services on campus, a variety of things that once you're no longer a student, you don't have access to anymore. From the library to various, whatever you can think of, there's probably some sort of service on campus that could support you and help you achieve your goals with regards to academics or otherwise. So I encourage you to take the time to sort of see some of those resources are out there, or reach out to me or Lon or anybody else associated with the program. We can kind of help connect you with those things. But I think that maybe sometimes, especially at the undergrad level, people are just, everything's going so quickly that they don't spend the time to sort of figure out what those resources are. But we can help sort of connect you with those things. So I'm going to actually turn this over to Lana. We're going to go through a couple questions to get to, because there's so many of you and people are about zoomed out after this last year, I'm sure. We're going to try to ask a few questions to get a feel for the room without having to make every one of you introduce yourselves. Not that we wouldn't want to hear from all of you, but I guess we only got so much time tonight.
Hi, everyone. It's so nice to see your faces. If you haven't done so already, if you can please rename yourselves. You can do that by hovering over the ellipses in your screen, and it should have like 3 or 4 dots, and you can rename yourselves just so we have your first and last names. It's good to see everybody. I recognize all your names, but I don't know all your faces. So if you want to put your camera on, please do. We like to not look at black boxes. So please do that. What we're going to do, oh, by the way, I'm Lana Gadesco, and I'm the academic support coordinator. So I will be your advisor through your program. If you have any questions, you need help with course selection, plans of study, anything at all, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I try my hardest to respond to you guys in 48 hours, preferably 24 if I can do that. I've talked to so many of you already, so I'm really happy to see all your faces. Before we officially get started, we have a quick poll that we would like to take. So let me know, give me a thumbs up if you guys can see that poll. Okay, good. Can you go ahead and answer those questions, please? Can you see the whole poll? Okay, good. I'll just wait a few more minutes here.
You need a foxtail option on there, I guess.
I know, I thought about that, but sorry, I'm just not a fan of foxtail. Right, just a few more seconds here, about 5 more people to respond. Okay, so I'm going to pick on a couple of you if you'd like to talk. So we've got 70% of you. Can you guys see the poll, like with the actual results? No, you can't? All right, give me a second. Now, can you see the poll with the results? Dr. Fukuda, can you see that?
Yep.
Okay, good. So just to jump down real quick, so 70% of you are here from UCF. You've graduated with your undergraduate degree from UCF. Does anybody want to tell us where they're from outside of UCF? Anybody want to? You can put it in the chat. You can unmute yourself.
ASU, Arizona State.
And who's speaking?
Carlos Reynoso.
Hi, Carlos. Anybody else?
Patrick Sheehan, Rhode Island College.
Hi, Patrick.
Hello.
I'm Emily. I'm from University of Georgia.
Hi, Emily. Anybody else want to share?
I'm Spencer Bala. I'm from Coastal Carolina University.
Hi, Spencer. Twice in one day, or 2 times I've talked to you. Anybody
Yes,
else?
My name's Shannon Tierney. I went to Duke.
Hey, Shannon.
My name is Mike. I went to Sacred Heart University in Connecticut.
Hey, Mike. Awesome.
We got a University of Miami there in the chat.
University. Oh, okay. You're keeping track of the chat.
For the 70% of you UCF people, I'm got my undergrad degree at Boise State, so I'm looking forward to a football game here in a couple weeks. Not to fire a bunch of people up, but.
Awesome. Okay, and then looking at the first question, your undergraduate degree, a good percentage of you are from an exercise science background. Anybody want to tell us the other? Anybody want to speak up? You can either unmute yourself or put it in the chat.
My bachelor's degrees are in physical education, health education, psychology.
Great, thanks, Patrick.
I'm from UCF and mine was biology undergraduate.
Thank you, Violet. Anyone else? Okay. And career goals, it looks like they're kind of mixed. I'd like to hear from anybody that has the other career goal. Curious to know what that is. If anybody would like to speak up.
Human performance.
Great.
I've marked other, but it's kind of because a lot of those are mixed in it, but I want to do athletic training, so.
Oh, we missed that one, Dr. Fukuda.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, anybody else?
I put other as well. I'm actually going to be an assistant coach at UCF, so coaching is something I'm considering.
Great, thanks, Shannon. Okay. Then we've got just some fun ones. It looks like it's a mix for Starbucks and Dunkin'. Instagram over Twitter, so we'll plug our Instagram. If you don't follow us on Instagram, please do. It's UCF _kinesiology. I think that's our handle. I could be wrong, but I'll send it out. And it's always on my email, so if you go back to any of my emails, you'll see it. We do lots of giveaways. We promote potential practicum opportunities, good news. So the ones that follow us, you've probably seen all that. And then we've got early bird or night owls, and it looks like we've got a good mix there as well. So thanks for doing that, guys. And I'm going to actually pass this on to Dr. Allison Redd, who is our practicum coordinator, and she's going to talk to you a little bit about practicum.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here tonight. I'm really excited to see your faces. Although you probably won't see much of me during your master's pursuit until you start considering pursuing a practicum opportunity. So we use the word practicum. Other places might use the word internship. But basically, if you're someone that's interested in looking at acquiring some sort of hands-on experience and get college credit for it, you're going to be working with me. So I just wanted to take a little bit of time tonight to kind of introduce that idea, give you a little bit of the information so you're prepared when it comes time, if that's a desire for you as a student, and also provide you with some resources so that you are prepared when the time comes. COVID's changed a lot of things for us, and so it's a little bit more lengthy of an application process than it has been in past years. So let me back up. Most of you are in your first, are getting ready to start your first semester. Some of you guys are getting ready to start your second semester. I don't think there's very many of you that are getting ready to start your second. So practicum is usually after you've spent probably at least 2 semesters here at UCF. And it's an opportunity for you to, like I said, get some hands-on experience within the profession that you would like to go into, either post-graduation or when you finish your maybe even terminal degree. So we're talking about hands-on. So if you're someone that's looking to apply to DPT school after you get your master's, then if you're looking to do practicum, you would probably be looking to do your internship or practicum in a PT's office. Athletic training, if you're interested in applying to athletic training school, then we would expect that you would be looking for a practicum experience within athletic training. So it's about what your interests are. It is something that you're required to find your practicum site, and that's a responsibility of each individual student. And then your site actually gets approved during the actual application process. So practicum can be a 3 or 6 credit hour experience. So if you're someone that doesn't have a lot of time that you can give during your day, maybe you are a student and you work and you also have a family, but you still want to try and get some sort of practicum experience, then the 3 credit hour experience is 120 hours spread over approximately 16 weeks. And that's during a typical fall or spring semester. We do offer practicum in the summer terms or summer semesters, but because the summer C-session is shortened to about 12 weeks, that changes the hours that you need to do weekly at your sites. But 3 credit experience is 120 hours. If you want to get a 6 credit experience, and that would be 240 hours, again, spread out over the course of the semester. I will say that even though students are required to find their own sites, it is a site where you cannot have any former relationship with in terms of work experience there, volunteer experience, or prior internship experience there. So when you start to think about pursuing or what you would like to do for a practicum experience, it's got to be someplace that you've never worked before. And so that's kind of useful to start thinking ahead now if you want practicum about potential sites, doing some research, asking some questions. So then when it comes time for the actual application window, you kind of have already touched base to see if that site would be able to house you and to take you on under their wing. So I do want to show you some resources because you have heard me say practicum window. And there's a website that I'm going to copy and paste for you guys in the chat function. And it's the website that I want you guys to kind of maybe bookmark and go back to the semester prior to you wanting to be in practicum. Because you apply in the semester prior to your official practicum experience. So let's say that you want to do a spring 2022 practicum experience. You would apply during the window this coming fall. And so typically the window for a spring experience is end of October, and it ends officially before Thanksgiving. So it is quite a few weeks out from the actual experience. And like I said, you do have to apply. There are several requirements. Some examples are submitting a resume. You must have a valid CPR certification that you'll submit. And then obviously an application and an opportunity for me to hear from your preceptor will be. But that's the website that will kind of give you information. I think Lana gave me the opportunity to actually share my screen. So hostess's detail. I can't share it, Lana. Do you know?
Okay, no problem. Give me a second.
It's not a big deal if it doesn't work out. It's just sometimes easier to show you what I'm talking about.
Okay, did it work?
I'll try again. Yes. Sort of. Here we go. My computer is being a little funny tonight. Okay, so what you should see is a page from the Division of Kinesiology that says Practicum on it. And this is actually the same, this links to the same page that I put in the chat box. So it gives, obviously, we've already had our application window for this coming fall. But here are your directions, right? How to apply. You start with contacting Ms. Gadesco first. She is your point of contact. The people that you see here in the middle of this page are for the undergraduate students. That's not you anymore. Right here, graduate practicum advisement team. So contact Ms. Gadesco first with your intentions, because she'll kind of vet a couple of questions that you might have, check to make sure you have your CPR cert, and then we can actually get you enrolled into the actual practicum preparations course. So if you're wanting to go into spring practicum, during the fall, you would contact Ms. Gadesco, probably September, no later than probably middle of October, to start the ball rolling for an official experience. So that's one resource that you have for you. And we will update this website with a little bit more information so that it's there for you when the next semester application window comes around. Trying to see how to stop sharing my screen. New share, cancel. Lana, am I still sharing my screen?
No, you're good.
Okay, thanks. Sorry about that. Any questions for me about practicum? Lana, did
We're
I
going to
leave
circle
anything
back
out?
to talk about practicum again towards the end of the orientation. We're just trying to accommodate some schedules here. So
Perfect. Great. Well, listen, I'm going to put my email address on here as well. It's allison.redd@ucf.edu. And if you have questions in the future and you'd like to reach out to me, please feel free to do so. Lana is usually your first point of reference for that, but I can also help answer things since I'm the practicum coordinator for the master's students. So it was nice meeting you all. If I could leave you guys with a piece of advice, it would be to get involved. We have an awesome lab that's doing a lot of research. There is a website that tells you about all the different research opportunities. And if you want to get involved, do it now, do it soon. You'll meet a lot of people that are like-minded. You'll have an opportunity to participate in research, whether you're helping lead it, assisting it, or participating in it. It's always a good idea to be a participant in a study to know what it's like when it comes time for you to do your own research. But get to know people, ask questions, get involved, and good luck with your master's.
thanks, Allie. So we also have Renetta Quinn with us. She's the Director of Graduate Affairs for the College of Health Professions and Sciences. And she's going to give you all the information you need to know. She's probably the most important point of contact as you go through the program, because she's here when you start and she'll be the person that's helping you finish this thing out as well. So I'm constantly calling her and asking her questions, and I'm sure you guys will find her very helpful.
Thank you, Dr. Fukuda. After that introduction, I feel like I have such a high bar to live up to. So I'll do my best, but we'll see how this goes. Let me share my screen here. I think I have the ability to do that. Now, can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, let me move these things over out of the way now. So I am Renetta Quinn. I am the Director of Graduate Affairs for the College of Health Professions and Sciences. I work with all of the graduate programs in CHIPS. We call ourselves CHIPS. And mostly I work with the graduate program directors and the advisors, but I'm also available to help you as a student if you need any assistance that you can't get from your department. If Lana is out or if Dr. Fukuda isn't available, I am available to answer questions or assist. I work with Claire Middlecoff in my office, who is an amazing person and a registration guru. So if you ever have problems registering for classes or need assistance with troubleshooting that or permissions or overrides, feel free to contact Claire. She will always be happy to help you with that. I also work with Dr. Linda Rosalugo, who is the Associate Dean for Graduate Affairs. If you ever have an issue or something that you would like to discuss with her, you can reach out to me and I can put you in touch with her. We are in the office full time these days, but if you want to meet with us virtually, we are happy to do that. We have our email and phone numbers here for you to contact us. So this is kind of the boring part of the presentation. So try to do our best to get through it. First part of it is the student responsibility. UCF uses Knight's Mail to communicate with students. Every department on this campus pulls active student reports and it lists your Knight's Mail. And so that's what we send all of the information to. It is the expectation that you will check Knight's Mail at least once a day. And I can absolutely 100% guarantee you that if you're not checking your Knight's Mail, you're going to miss out on important information from the various departments on campus. The next very important thing is that it's your responsibility to know all of the rules and regulations associated with graduate education here at UCF. And that's why we have this orientation to help you learn those rules and regulations or to know who to contact should you have questions about them. We do not make exceptions to policies or requirements just because someone doesn't know that it was a requirement or know what the regulations are. The next thing is your PID, your UCF ID. If you are new to UCF, then this is going to be a little confusing. If you're a veteran UCFer, then you already know your NID and your PID. But for those of you that are new, you have a NID, and that's what you use to sign into the system, to log into your My UCF account. We don't need that when you contact us. What we do need is your PID, your UCF ID. It starts with the first letter of your first name. That helps us find you in the system, especially if you have a common name. With 70,000 students, you can imagine there are a lot of similar names, and it just makes it easier for us. The last thing I want to talk about on this slide is FERPA, the Family Education Rights to Privacy Act. You are entitled to privacy in everything related to your academic career here at UCF. We will not discuss your academic situation with anyone else, not family, friends, spouses. So if you want us to discuss your information with someone else, you have to give us permission. That is a federal law, and we could get fired or go to jail for violating it. So we take it very seriously. The next thing I want to talk about, and this is more of the boring stuff, just try to hang with me for a little bit, guys. It gets better. I get to talk about financial aid in a few minutes. Everybody's always interested in that. But right now we're going to try to make our way through some of these policies. The first one is the GPA policy. You have a graduate status GPA and a graduate program GPA. You must maintain a 3.0 in your graduate program in the graduate status GPA. Most of you, those will be the same GPA. The only reason that they vary is your plan of study GPA is all of the courses that you need to take to complete this particular degree program. Your graduate status GPA is basically the overall GPA since you started this program. So if you're taking classes in this program and you're also pursuing a certificate or taking classes outside of the program, then you might have two different GPAs. But both of them need to be above a 3.0. If you drop below a 3.0, the College of Graduate Studies will place you on academic probation. You have 9 credit hours to then reach a 3.0. If you drop below a 2.0, you are automatically dismissed by the College of Graduate Studies. On that same track of thinking, we're going to talk about low grades. You may earn no more than 2 C grades. You can use 2 C grades toward a degree, a graduate degree at UCF. If you make a 3rd C, you most likely will be dismissed from the program. It's rare that a student is allowed to continue with a 3rd C unless there was some extenuating circumstance, and then the program would consider an exception to that. A C plus is still a C grade, so keep that in mind. If you make a grade below a C minus, a D or an F in other words, you most likely again will be dismissed from the program. It is very rare that a student is allowed to continue in graduate school, that's in any graduate program, with a D or an F. The only reason that that would ever be allowed is if, again, there were extenuating circumstances and the program decided to make an exception for you. A B minus, this is kind of something you have to stop and think about for a minute, because a B sounds like a good grade, but a B minus is actually below a 3.0. It actually hurts your GPA. So keep in mind that a B minus is no longer a good grade. I know when I was in undergraduate school, I thought a B minus was a good grade, but that changes once you get to graduate school. There's also no grade forgiveness here at the graduate level. If you are a UCF undergrad, you're familiar with grade forgiveness, but that is not an option at UCF at the graduate level. If you need to repeat a course because it was a 3rd C or a D or an F, both of the grades are calculated into that GPA. This is not necessarily a cohort program, so you do have a little bit of flexibility in your enrollment. The university requires that you attend at least 1 semester per year. So if you're enrolling this fall, you could sit out spring and summer and return next fall as an active student still in good standing. But if you sit out 3 consecutive semesters, you are terminated, you're deactivated from the program. You're not dismissed, you're still in good standing, but you're just inactivated, and you would have to reapply for admission. If something comes up and you do need to sit out for a longer period of time, maybe an illness or military assignment or change in your job or something, you can request a leave of absence. We do have that as an option at UCF. And your program will need to approve that and adjust your plan of study accordingly so that you can plan for when you would want to return to the program. An incomplete grade is something that's sometimes assigned when a student has something that happens during the semester that prevents them from completing all of the assignments by the end of the semester. As a general rule of thumb, this comes into play if something happens after the withdrawal deadline. If something happens from before the withdrawal deadline and you see you're not going to be able to keep up with your assignments, the best thing to do is just to withdraw from the class. But if something happens right at the end of the semester and maybe you just have a final paper or an exam or something like that to submit, you can talk with your faculty member about an incomplete grade. Incomplete grades, there's usually a time limit the faculty member will assign for completing the final requirements. The last thing I want to try to talk about as far as your enrollment is transfer work. If you completed any work at another university, any graduate coursework at another university, or even here at UCF in another program that you want to transfer into this degree program, you need to talk with Lana right away because we need to get that on your plan of study in this first semester. If we don't get it on the plan of study in the first semester, there's a possibility you wouldn't be able to use it. So let Lana know right away if you have transfer work. The last thing on this slide is full-time enrollment is 9 credit hours in the fall and spring and 6 credit hours in the summer. And you qualify for financial aid with half-time enrollment each semester. So who do you contact if you have a question or a hold? The best thing to do, the most important thing is to get to know your UCF. There are so many students at this university that UCF has done an amazing job of getting the student center functioning so that you can pretty much handle anything that you need to do right there in the Student Center. And I'm going to go over that in more detail in a few minutes. You also have a graduate catalog and a program handbook that are online and available to you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week that can assist you. If you can't find the answers there, you have your department faculty, Dr. Fukuda, your graduate advisor, Lana, is available, and my office is available to you. But keep in mind that we are not available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. As Lana mentioned, we do try to get information responses back to student emails within about 24 to 48 hours, but be patient with us if it takes us 24 hours to get back to you. And don't expect a response over the weekend, because sometimes we don't work on the weekends. I try not to anyway. If you have a hold, you need to contact the person that placed the hold, because I can only remove holds that I place. And ta-da! Here we have your Student Center. Most of you that are UCF undergrads are already very familiar with this, but I'm going to go over it briefly for the new students to UCF. The first thing I want to talk about are holds and to-do items. To-do items are things that do not interfere with your registration or your transcript availability, but they're things that you need to get done. Right now, I don't know if they've actually placed the student modules out there yet. They're probably going to, if they haven't, they'll do that in the next week or so. But you will all have a to-do item. They'll have, I think, 3 of them. One of them is the plagiarism to-do item from the College of Graduate Studies. And there's the Let's Be Clear to-do item and the knighthood modules that address sexual harassment and behavior and conduct on campus. UCF has a zero tolerance for harassment and conduct on campus, as well as plagiarism and academic misconduct. So you want to pay careful attention to those modules. We take those things very seriously. Financial aid also puts items on your to-do list. So if you have any financial aid issues, items there, you'll want to complete those as quickly as you can, because that will hold up your financial aid. If you do not complete items by the deadline, they can turn into holds. A hold can either prevent registration or it can prevent you getting access to your transcripts. Not all holds prevent registration, so you'll want to clear those up and check to see what they are. The next thing is this little drop-down box here. This is just a treasure trove of goodies that they have put out for you, but I don't know why they hide such important things in this box. So if you're ever in your student center and you can't find what you're looking for, just look in this box, because that's probably where it is. This is where you can add and drop your classes. This is where you can look at your degree audit, and I suggest that you do that at least once a semester. We use the GPS degree audit, not the My Night audit. My Night audit is for undergraduates. This is also where you will file your intent to graduate. In a very short few semesters, you will be graduating, and you'll want to file the intent there, as well as request your transcripts. You also can handle all of your financial affairs here on this in the My UCF Center. This is where you can check your financial aid, pay your tuition and fees. You can also update all of your personal information there. And I mentioned earlier about registration on the My UCF Center. We use 3-term registration here at UCF. So when registration opens in the spring, it's available for summer, fall, and spring semester. For those of you that are coming in the fall, you should be able to register for your fall and spring classes. They're available to you now. When you go to the search feature, be sure, and I know this sounds obvious, you're like, why are you pointing this out? But I wouldn't be pointing it out if I didn't get phone calls about this. And I think the system must default to undergraduates, so be sure that you check graduate. And also uncheck the show open classes only, because if your class is full or if it's closed for registration, you won't be able to find it unless you uncheck that. I encourage you to go ahead and register for your spring classes if you have access to do so. You won't be able to register for your spring classes if we have not received your final transcripts. If you just graduated this summer, then we're probably still waiting on those. And so you'll only be able to register for the fall term right now. Fees are always due the second Friday of the semester, no matter when you register. So if you register for your spring classes now, your fees aren't going to be due until late January. And this is your degree audit, your graduate plan of study. This is a sample of someone from social work, but they're all built basically the same. At the top has your program and your personal information. And then down at the bottom, the next section of it is policies, graduate policies. This shows your GPA. Now, this person was getting ready to graduate, so theirs was green, but all of yours are going to be red right now. And it's going to say not satisfied. And that's fine. It should say not satisfied because you're just starting the program. Your graduate status GPA will just be red because it just stays that way until you graduate. If you ever look at any of these boxes and it shows not satisfied, you need to contact Lana right away to find out what's going on, because it means that the course that's listed in this box is violating that policy. And so we need to look into it and figure out what's going on. The next section of your audit is your required courses. Now, this one was built by semester, but yours is built by core classes and electives. You'll be able to look at your core classes, and on the GPS audit, these are actually hyperlinks. So you can click on it and go straight to the class if you want to. And then register. You click on that, it takes you to the catalog information and to the class schedule, and you can register directly from here. You will have checklist items after that. And you must have completed your plan of study. All of you will have a plan of study, this item right here on your checklist item. You'll be completing your plans of study. If you haven't already done so, you will be completing them shortly and submitting them to Lana. And then we will update that information. Eventually that will get updated. And then at the very bottom is course history. Okay, now for the good stuff. I know you guys have been waiting for this. This is the much more interesting part of the show. The types of financial aid that are available to you as a graduate student are somewhat limited. You have, when it comes to federally funded aid, basically the only thing that's available in the form of federally funded aid is the Stafford loan, the Stafford unsubsidized loan, which is the loan that accrues interest from the time that you're admitted to the program, or from the time that you receive the loan, I'm sorry, and the Grad Plus loan. Those are the two federally funded programs available to graduate students. If you have Florida prepaid, you can use that for graduate school. If you had Bright Futures as an undergraduate and you didn't use all of your terms of Bright Futures, you can use one more semester toward graduate school. So you can reach out to Bright Futures, let them know you're enrolled in graduate school, and they will transmit that information into our financial aid office. You accept and decline your loans in the My UCF Student Center. Graduate Studies will put the loans out there, and then you just hit the accept decline, and it will take you to this box. If you want less than the amount being offered to you, you can put the exact amount that you want to receive in the box and then accept it. Students frequently ask what they can do to ensure their aid disperses as quickly as possible. The first thing you can do is complete your FAFSA early. If you just graduated this summer and you filed a FAFSA, you want to be sure that your fall FAFSA, your 21-22 FAFSA, shows you as a graduate student. Be sure that you have submitted your FAFSA with your graduate status for 21-22. That's something that's really important. Complete it early every year so that you get the aid offered to you as quickly as possible. The other thing is to complete your to-do items. If you're selected for verification or if there are any outstanding to-do items from financial aid, that will hold up disbursement of your aid. So you need to pay attention to those to-do items. Check them at least a couple of times a week. If you have a to-do item from financial aid, you can upload those documents through their document upload system on the financial aid website. Any questions so far about financial aid? Okay. If you do have questions as I'm going through, just put them in the chat or just stop me. I don't mind. Don't hesitate to say, wait, I have a question. I'm happy to answer any questions as I go. Financial aid begins dispersing the second week of the semester. After add drop, the following week, then financial aid begins to disperse. But frequently it doesn't disperse in that second week because there's some issue that's delaying it, something on the to-do list or transcripts or something like that. So if your financial aid doesn't disperse the second week, or if you need money to buy books and supplies, you have a couple of options. The first one is the short-term advance. And this is basically just an advance on your financial aid. It's kind of like getting an advance on your allowance from your parents. You can get up to $600 that's paid to you directly, and you can take that money to any bookstore or wherever you need to go to buy your books and supplies, Amazon, whatever. You get that $600 to you in advance. There is a $5 processing fee for that. And note that all of your to-do items must be complete before they'll process the short-term advance. But it can be used anywhere. The other option is the textbook purchase program. And this is like a charge account at the bookstore, at the UCF bookstore. You go to the bookstore and you buy your books and supplies, and they put it on your charge account up to $600. And then when your financial aid pays, it disperses that amount from the bookstore is showing as an amount owed to the university that is withheld along with your tuition and fees at the time your aid disperses. And then you receive a refund for the difference, for the remainder. So here's your fee invoice. There's a couple of different things to keep in mind. The initial fee payment deadline is always the second Friday of the semester. But if you have accepted aid in place, the university will defer that fee payment deadline until about the middle of the semester. This person had a deferral for some of their aid. And so if you look at your fee invoice, it should show the fee payment deadline. And it will show all of the aid that you have received or the aid that you have estimated coming to you. If your financial aid, if you've accepted your student loan and it exceeds the amount of your tuition and fees, then you don't need to do anything on the fee payment deadline. Even if your aid hasn't posted yet to your account, if you've got the deferral in place, you don't have to do anything because you have enough financial aid to cover your tuition and fees. Once it disperses, the university withholds that amount, and then you get the refund of the difference, either as direct deposit or a check. But if your financial aid is less than your tuition and fees, then you need to make a payment on the fee payment deadline, or if you haven't accepted your Stafford loan. If you have Bright Futures, it posts on here as a deduction, but I have learned last semester, as a matter of fact, we had a student and it was showing as a deduction. And so I thought that the student didn't need to pay that amount. But it turns out the student had to pay that amount because the Bright Futures had not actually posted yet. It's an estimated amount. So if you have Bright Futures, you want to go ahead and pay your total tuition and fees if you don't have a deferral. I know that's a little bit confusing. So if you have questions, feel free to reach out to me and I'll try to help you with it. Are there any questions about financial aid? Anybody have? I know you have questions. Everybody has questions about financial aid. Really? Okay. Well, you know where to find me. You have my email address. Alana's going to be sending a handout in an email to you later, I think, that has pretty much all the information that I've gone over, and it has my contact information. You know where to find me. If you have questions, I'm happy to help you. The last thing that I want to talk about is the fact that it's not always fun. Sadly, there are things in life that happen, and it's just not always fun. Sometimes you need to take a step back from your classes. And depending on when things go sideways for you, it may be in the middle of the semester, it may be the beginning of the semester, but you need to let us know when something is going wrong. Don't wait till your hair's on fire to tell us you've got a problem, because a lot of times by then it's too late. You need to let us know early on if you're struggling, if you're having problems. If you're having problems in a particular class, talk with the faculty member, set up an appointment, or go during office hours and talk with the faculty member. Most of them are very willing to assist you. Talk with them, let them know what's going on. If you need to withdraw, there could be financial consequences to that. There's no refund of your tuition and fees if you withdraw after the drop week. There are financial aid consequences, and it could slow your progression in the program. But it's much better to withdraw from a class and lose your tuition and fees than to fail a class. Because if you fail a class, there's a good chance you're going to be dismissed from the program. So let us know when something's going on so we can discuss your options with you, and you can consider and weigh your options before it's too late. I've already talked about the incomplete grade option, so we can skip that. Resources, and I know they're going to talk about this more, but the university really does care about their students, and we care about you. There's the CARES office, and there's also CAPS. In the handout that Lana's sending to you on the third page, I think it's the second or third page, there's a list of community resources that are available. Food pantries and various options that are available for support as well. It's hard to imagine, but for those of us that have been in graduate school, we will tell you, you're most likely will never be poorer in your life than you are in graduate school. So don't be shy. If you need help or you need community services, ask for them. That's what the CARES office does, and they are very willing to help you. That's why we are here. We don't admit students to graduate school in hopes that they don't make it. We admit students to graduate school hoping that they graduate and become successful in their field. And we want to do everything that we can to put you in a position to be successful. So reach out to CARES, reach out to CAPS, that's the Counseling and Psychological Services office, and let us know what's going on. Don't just stop going to class. I know this is a huge university and you think that no one notices, but we do notice when you stop going to class, and we do notice when you're not here. If something happens and you get sick, or you have an accident or something, there is a medical withdrawal option. There's some requirements that you have to meet for that, but there isn't. Just know that you have a medical withdrawal option, and Lana or I can tell you more about it should you need that. The last thing, just important dates. You all know when classes start. Add drop week is always the first week of the semester. The withdrawal deadline for fall is October 29th. If you're a UCF employee, you can't register until the Friday before classes begin at 1 o'clock. If you are a state employee, you can't register until 3 p.m. if you're planning to use your UCF or state employee tuition waivers. Okay, that's it. Are there any questions? No? No questions? Okay, everybody's just sitting there going, oh my God, is she ever going to stop talking?
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure, what is it?
What was that you said about the tuition waivers at the end there?
If you are a state employee or a UCF employee planning to use your employee tuition voucher, you cannot register until the Friday before classes begin, because those classes are offered on a space available basis. Oh, did I turn off? I turned off my camera there. A space available basis. So they have to wait until Friday before classes begin to register. If you have already registered, let me know. If you didn't know you couldn't register and you're a state employee and you've already registered, let me know and we'll see what we can do with student accounts.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Okay. Well, like I said, you know where to find me. Feel free to reach out, call, or email. I'll be happy to help you.
Thanks, Renetta.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to take a couple minutes here just to talk about a few things before we go into the plan of study and some of the information about classes. So at the graduate level, most of the faculty that will be teaching your courses, well, all the faculty that will be teaching your courses are considered graduate faculty. So that typically means that they are involved with research to some degree, and they're leading research projects in one form or another. And that sort of comes through in your classes. You guys will see that it starts to be a larger emphasis, not because we expect you all to be researchers, but a lot of times it's just so that we hope that our graduates from the MS program are able to be sort of informed and able to process research papers that are out there and use those in practice. So it's sort of a big emphasis. So I'm going to just talk about a few things if I can figure out how to share my screen.
Do you need me to add you as a co-host?
No, I just need to figure out what I'm doing.
Okay.
Let's see. All right. You guys see a PowerPoint slide there? Okay.
Yes.
So the Institute of Exercise Physiology and Rehabilitation Science is associated with many of the faculty in the School of Kinesiology and Physical Therapy. And like I mentioned, that most of the faculty that will be teaching the graduate courses are working in labs in one form or another. So hopefully you all will be able to be engaged in some of these laboratories. I know several of the core courses utilize these lab spaces pretty heavily. So I just wanted to give you an idea of some of the labs that are out there, and hopefully you'll be able to engage in some of these as you go through. So we can sort of break up all the labs and different groups associated with the Institute into three categories: clinical research laboratories, community laboratory and initiatives, and basic science laboratories. The bulk of them that you'll probably be engaged with are on the clinical side. I guess actually you'll probably engage with all of these. The ones that the faculty PIs typically lead, like the athletic training laboratory, Dr. Mangum is teaching a course PET 6521 in the fall. Her research involves around a lot of athletic training, but specifically size and function of like the core muscles and that sort of thing. Like she's just finishing up a couple of studies looking at the plank exercise and utilizing TRX straps for a number of things. The primary labs associated with kinesiology are the EPIC lab here. We took us a long time to come up with cool acronyms, so hopefully you guys are impressed with them. So the EPIC lab here and the Power lab here, we do a variety of different types of research related to human performance, muscle size, function. It ranges from like blood flow restriction, hypoxia, sport-specific, sport science type things, up to immune function where we're pulling blood, body composition, sport nutrition, all kinds of training interventions, a variety of different things. Hopefully you guys will start to learn a lot more about the things that we do in class. The Neuromuscular Plasticity Lab and the Musculoskeletal Research Lab are actually associated with physical therapy faculty, but you'll probably be working with some of their students in class, and then some of the faculty with some of the teaching opportunities as well. On the community laboratories side, the Wellness Research Center is actually the faculty and staff gym. When Dr. Redd was talking about practicum opportunities, there may be opportunities for you to become involved with the faculty and staff gym or the Wellness Research Center through practicum opportunities, and then also through sports science initiatives. So these sports science initiatives are a couple different ways that we sort of engage with different athletics teams. So the primary one that we have is with UCF Athletics, where we've been able to support teams through a number of different ways. Some of it's with training monitoring, some of it's with research studies. So we've had research studies with rowing, with softball, with baseball, with men's and women's soccer, with volleyball. So quite a few of the teams there, both on the sports science side and on the research side. So Dr. Redd, Mike Redd, sort of the head of that. So hopefully there'll be some more opportunities for you to sort of engage with that group. And then on the basic science side, we do have a couple of sort of wet lab spaces over in biology, and then another one located here in the education building. And then the Kinesiology Teaching Laboratory, which actually 3 or 4 of these spaces have just been renovated. Really nice setup, changed quite a bit from what we had before. So you all will be one of the first groups going through these with the newly renovated spaces. So the Kinesiology Teaching Lab is something that I believe in exercise physiology 2 and assessment, at least, probably a few others where a lot of the course will end up being in that lab. You can see some of the details up there, but we have a pretty strong research enterprise, lots of projects going on. We have grad students involved, and hopefully there'll be opportunities for you all to engage with it as well. There is a website here, and I'll just sort of show you that kind of quickly, maybe. So this is the Institute website. It actually has links to all the sort of research labs that I just mentioned, so you can go directly to those websites. One thing that I wanted to point out is we had our first Institute conference last year. It was all virtual, but this year we're planning to have another conference in February, and it's going to be, I think, a sort of a hybrid option. So you can see here, February 25th and 26th, the title, Finding Strength, Drawing Synergies from Exercise Physiology and Rehabilitation. This is going to be a virtual one, so some of it will be in person and some of it will be online. There'll be options for both. Last year, we were able to bring in some really good speakers, sort of ranging from all the different programs within the School of Kinesiology and Physical Therapy, so from athletic training to physical therapy to strength and conditioning. We had people related to NASA, exercise science research. We had Duncan French, who works with the UFC, down to pain science people that are more in clinical settings and a variety of different things. So pretty cool. Hopefully there'll be opportunities for you to engage and participate in the conference as well. I'll just click down into one of these. I'm biased because this is the lab that I co-direct with Dr. Stout. This is the Power Lab website, but I wanted to show you one other thing while we're here. Dr. Redd mentioned this, but there's an entire website dedicated to studies, ongoing studies that are looking for research participants. So you can see here we have, maybe not all of them, but many of the research studies that are ongoing, where you can click down into it. Another shameless plug, because I'm helping manage this study as well, but you can get all the details about it. Like for example, this one will tell you if there's compensation. There's not always compensation, but this one does have it. Some of the inclusion exclusion criteria. You can click on this, or you can fill out this thing, and it'll send an email directly to the doc student in charge, which is Justine Renziehausen. So if you want to get involved, it's all right there. You can sort of siphon your way through it. There are things outside of our school, different research opportunities across the whole college. So just a great resource if you want to get involved, see some of the things that are going on. This is one way to do it. So sort of moving on from the research aspect of it, I want to talk a little bit about the program, the different options within the MS degree program. So the question we get sort of early on most of the time is the thesis versus non-thesis option. Okay, so for the most part, when students start our program, everybody is sort of pushed into the non-thesis option. There's a couple of reasons for that. The biggest one being is that the thesis option, typically we only have a handful of students that are pursuing that, partly because of varied interest in what the next step is for you all, but also because of resources. The thesis option requires the student to have a faculty mentor that chairs their thesis and a thesis committee that helps sort of guide them through the research process. So that would involve a proposal of a research project, going through that data collection, recruiting all the subjects, maybe getting something on that research participation website, collecting the data, doing the statistical analysis, writing it up, and then presenting and defending that to the thesis committee and sort of a public open sort of presentation. So typically, for the most part, when we have students on the thesis route, it's because we have a GA position for them, something to help sort of support some of their work. They usually end up like TAing for a class, undergrad class or something like that. But we usually only have like a handful of those directly within our program. So like this, for example, this year we have about 5. So there's 5 or 6 students around that thesis track that are supported through GA funding. And just to put it in perspective, I think we have about 90 students now in the master's program. So it's pretty limited. There could be potentially opportunities, so I don't want to completely rule that out for someone to complete a thesis without a GA position. But it's mostly going through that process of finding a graduate faculty member who's willing to take on that responsibility of being a thesis advisor. And I'm happy to answer more questions about that as we sort of cycle through, but you can see why we usually start people in the non-thesis route. Some of us will take students on somewhere within the program. Some of us are starting students directly when they arrive on campus. So it sort of depends on the faculty member. And like I said, I'm happy to ask more questions either here or offline related to the thesis track. Now moving on to the non-thesis one. The non-thesis track, Lana will go through over the plan of study and talk about sort of the required courses and some of the nuts and bolts of that. But the big piece that sort of replaces the thesis in the non-thesis track are consists of 2 options, either the practicum, which Dr. Redd spoke about, or a review of the literature. Okay. So usually what I recommend to people is that as much as you can, you should try to pursue that practicum route. For whatever reason, when you're in school and you're pursuing internship or practicum opportunities and you have that sort of support of UCF behind you, it tends to open more doors than if you're just some random person asking to show up and spend time in a gym or whatever it is. So I really encourage you to take that opportunity to use the resources that we have and a little bit of the clout that we have to be able to get in the door with places that maybe you wouldn't otherwise. The other piece that I'll give is a bit of an alternative, because I know that like throwing out those numbers for the thesis one doesn't probably bode well for people. It's like, I definitely want to do a thesis, but depending on what your end goal is with what you're thinking with the thesis, sometimes it's just usually a lot of the times because we get really good students who are in our program that don't want to do research. Like they want to go to PT school, med school, athletic training, whatever it is, and we fully support that with trying to help you get along there. But sometimes I think people want to pursue the thesis option because they want to get into PT school, and maybe that'll help. I don't know. But another option that I've spoken to some faculty about is just doing the practicum and then helping in a research lab. So I know like this fall, we have 2 students that are doing a practicum in one of the research labs. So they're not doing a full-blown thesis, but they are helping and supporting that research process. So that might be a good alternative that still sort of gets you engaged. And I think that if you do a good job during that practicum, faculty may be still willing to sort of write letters in support of opportunities like with PhD programs or something along those lines. Not a guarantee, but it does give a little bit of different options other than just the thesis track. The other piece is that the thesis track students, we tend to expect a lot of them as far as hours go. And I do know that we have people from all different walks of life, different commitments and that sort of thing. So maybe they don't have enough time to commit to the full thesis process. And then as an alternative to the practicum, we do have the review of literature course, a sort of an online course with milestones set up throughout the semester of basically developing a piece of a paper that basically combs through all the existing literature on a particular topic. There's a lot of different ways that we can go with it. Usually, right now, I'm the instructor of record for that course. So I'll try to gear people towards writing something that would look similar to what would be submitted to a research journal or a couple of sort of popular press type magazine type articles, something along those lines. So I'm trying to get it so that stuff that people can use, hopefully maybe they could consider getting published at some point, something along those lines. And I guess just a quick sort of note, just this year within our catalog, there is also an anatomical sciences specialization. It's really new. It involves courses that are offered within the PT program. So I'm not going to go into a bunch of detail about it tonight, but if you are interested in that, you can let us know. But it involves several gross anatomy courses and then a few seminar and teaching type courses that would sort of prepare somebody to be able to teach anatomy at some point. So that's a new specialization. It's got some odd timing, so we would have to sort of work it out with the PT faculty on how that could potentially work, but it is an option at this point. All right. Any questions about stuff that I've talked about so far? We're going to have a big Q&A session once Lana goes through the plan of study as well, but I figured I'd just check if there's questions fresh in people's minds at this point. No?
I actually do. So regarding the anatomical science or the last part that you mentioned, is that included in the non-thesis part, or is that a whole new track, different thesis versus non-thesis?
Yeah, it's sort of within the non-thesis option, or sort of an added piece, because you have to sort of be accepted into that specialization, if that makes sense. So there's another layer there, but it would be more like the non-thesis track.
Got it.
I will say with this specialization, there's be fewer options as far as electives go, because there's some required electives going through that process.
I also have a question. Are we going to be going over option 1 and 2 for the non-thesis?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions at this point? All right, I'm going to turn it over to Lana now.
Thank you, Dr. Fukuda. Before I go into the plan of study, in the chat, I'm putting in anonymous. Sometimes people don't like to raise their hand or speak up, but you can put any question that you want in that website. If you just go to onlinequestions.org and then in the event number, type 15673, and that'll come into us anonymously. And we'll be happy to answer those questions as well. So as I'm talking, please feel free to add questions to that website, or you can just unmute yourself when I'm done and we could just do an actual Q&A session, but that's just an option, or you can use the chat as well. Let me share my screen really quickly. Okay, can everyone see that? Good. Okay. So this is the non-thesis program of study for the Master's in Kinesiology program. As most of you have actually already seen this because I've been trying to send these out. Some of you haven't because I'm still working on a few. But the program is 36 credit hours. And that's divided between core courses, electives, and then your non-thesis options. In the core, we have 12 credits. So we've got 4 classes that are considered core classes. Those courses are typically offered in the fall and spring semester only, but not every fall and not every spring. So you won't see all 4 classes in the fall and you won't see all 4 in the spring. Typically, exercise physiology 1 and research methods are offered in the fall. Dr. Fruta, stop me if I'm saying something incorrectly because I'm going based off memory here. The assessment and evaluation course and exercise physiology 2 are typically offered in the spring semesters. So most of you are already registered for courses for fall, and you more than likely have registered for research and exphys 1. The electives this is where it differs based off what you choose for your options for either the practicum or the review of literature. The electives are anywhere from 18 to 21 credits. So if you take 18 credits of electives, which is equivalent to 6 classes, you must do a 6 credit hour practicum. Does that make sense so far? because you have to meet the 36 credits. If you do 21 credits of electives, which is equivalent to 7 classes, your options are to do the non-thesis option 1, which is practicum for 3 credits, or non-thesis option 3, which is the review of literature for 3 credits. I know that's a little confusing, so I'm happy to take questions if anybody has a question about that. I need to stop my, here we go. Okay, because I can't see the chat. Dr. Fukuda, if you can see the chat, let me know if there's questions in there. So again, 12 credits in the core, 18 to 21 credits in the electives, and then there's 3 options for non-thesis. Like Dr. Redd was talking about, in the practicum option, your 3 credit hour practicum is equivalent to 120 contact hours. What that typically means, if you're doing that in a fall or spring semester, a typical semester is about 15 weeks, give or take. So you would divide that 120 hours by 15 weeks, and that's how many contact hours the site would have to dedicate to you per week in order to meet that requirement. The 6 credit hour practicum is 240 contact hours, and it would be the same thing. Like Dr. Redd was talking about, and I don't know if she mentioned this, but in the graduate program, if you decide to do a practicum, which again, like Dr. Fukuda said, we do highly encourage that you do so. It can be a paid experience as well. So it can, if you find a paid experience, that's fantastic, or a non-paid experience. Anybody have questions about the practicum before we go any further at all?
Yeah,
So,
go ahead.
Who was that? Desiree? You can go ahead, Desiree.
Yeah, my question was, is there any specific prerequisites that you would need in order to apply for a practicum?
Do you mean course prerequisites? There are no course prerequisites that you need to have completed, but we don't typically approve a practicum in your first semester, and maybe not even in your second semester. It just depends on the situation. A practicum cannot be somewhere where you're working, have worked, volunteered, or have volunteered in the past. So if you did an undergraduate degree with us in, let's say, sport and exercise science or kinesiology, and you had a practicum within that degree, you cannot repeat that same exact practicum. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
I'll probably also add in that the practicum application process, there are some sort of gatekeeper points within that. So,
Yes.
you know, filling out appropriate paperwork, and there's even an interview. So if for some reason something gets sort of red flagged as we go through there, it's possible it could get denied just in general. It doesn't usually happen, but like, that's just sort of our way to make sure that we're making that whoever we might be sending out in the community is representing us in an appropriate way, something along those lines. So there are like small things along the way that could hold it up, but no specific prerequisites.
Yeah, there's no prereq, but there is a practicum prep course, a practicum preparations course that Dr. Redd was speaking about that must be completed. There are different modules that must be completed. It's online through web courses. And she does require an interview and mandatory orientation as well in order to be considered.
I had a question.
Yeah.
So it's actually kind of twofold. Can you take the practicum in your last semester?
Yes.
Okay. And then my other question is, can you take your practicum over a summer?
Yes. Now, with the summer semester, we always want to caution you that the summer is condensed. So typical semester is between 15 and 16 weeks, but a summer semester, depending on, you know, holidays, could be anywhere from 11 to 12 weeks because it is through the full summer C. So your contact hours would go up a little bit.
Okay.
They would still remain 120 or 240, but I mean the contact hours per week.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
So if I get to my last semester to take my practicum, and so right now I'm interning with the strength and conditioning performance staff with the football team here. So if I stay with them into my last semester, into my practicum, if I went into like the athletic training room, would that still be considered the same place because they're both involved in athletics, or would that be separate?
I'll let Dr. Fukuda answer.
Yeah, it's sort of, I'm probably gonna have to say it depends. So that practicum sort of prep process is sort of that place where we can sort of engage and figure out where that is. Dr. Redd is actually usually the one who decides those things. So it depends on how clearly that you can differentiate between what you're doing before and what you'd be doing there. So there's an opportunity for you to sort of demonstrate that it's going to be different. The only thing we've run into is like people are like doing their job and then saying this is their intern, this is their practicum or whatever it is. So there's no way to commit at this point to say it would go one way or the other, but you'd be given an opportunity to sort of demonstrate that it'd be different.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I guess just to note, like usually practicum opportunities are an option every semester, same with lit review. But the elective courses, just because they're on this list doesn't mean that they're going to be offered on a regular basis. And I hope you can see there's a lot of courses and there's not that many faculty. So sometimes you could go through these 2 years and maybe one of these wouldn't be offered at all. So we've had some students come through before that's like, oh, I really wanted to take this class, but unfortunately it's not offered for whatever reason. So just to, I guess, sort of give a heads up with that.
Yeah, it is. If you see on the electives and on the core, it'll say subject to course availability, basically what just Dr. Fukuda was just speaking about. A lot of you are registered for PET 5216 with Dr. Fisher, motivational aspects of coaching, and you won't see that on this plan of study, but it does count towards your electives. We just have to manually move it. Any other questions?
We're hoping to have another actually elective course that won't be on this list as well for the spring, but we're still trying to get some more details about that.
Anybody else? Practicum, review of lit, courses? Okay.
I had one quick question.
Sure.
So I've taken exercise physiology 1 before, but that was as an undergrad. Is exercise phys 1 in the master's program any different than an exercise phys 1 class as an undergrad?
Yeah, there's probably some overlap. It'll be a little bit different.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing this. Okay, so do we have any question, or Dr. Fukuda, do you have anything else?
No.
Okay. Any other questions? You can either go ahead.
So for option 1 and 2, it doesn't matter which one we go to. It won't affect the actual plan of study that we do, affecting the courses later on.
So the only difference between option 1 and 2 is that option 1 is a 3-credit practicum, which means you have to do 7 electives, and option 2 is 6 credit, which you have to do 6 electives.
Okay.
And then if your plans of study, and I think I've tried to explain this to an email, if your plans of study have you doing a 6-credit-hour practicum and you decide to do a 3-credit-hour practicum, or you decide to do a review of literature, that's okay. We can update the plans of study at any time, like I mentioned. So don't, that's just a guide. That's a guide. We can always update those plans of study every semester if we need to. So that's, don't worry about that. We have a question in the onlinequestions.org. Are there any open elective classes available for fall? So currently we have motivational aspects with Dr. Fisher open. It's Monday night, 6 to 8:50. That course is PET 5216. I'm not sure who asked that question, but I hope I'm not talking too fast. If I am, please email me. And we also have PET 6381 also on Monday nights. That's open. The other classes are all full.
Sort of related to that, she mentioned that there was 2 classes on the same night. This program has typically only had evening courses to accommodate people working during the day. But we are starting to run into a problem where there's too much overlap on the nights and that sort of thing. So we did send out a poll today. I think this group was included, right?
Yes.
Just trying to see if people had availability during the day and what would make the most sense if we were going to start doing that. So we're always trying to figure out ways to make this work a little bit better for people and give a few more options.
Is this degree achievable in 3 semesters? No.
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 Yeah. We've been getting that a lot. Even 4 semesters are going to be pushing it.
Yeah.
I mean, this is probably going to take you 2 years, especially depending on the courses that are offered. And just so we can get it out of the way. There's not a fully online option for this either. Like, you need to be able to come to campus.
Good question. Does the wait on registration until the Friday before classes begin apply to those already hired as GAs? No. If you're on a graduate assistantship, that's not considered I mean, you are a UCF employee, but no, the answer is no.
Yeah, that comes into play with trying to use a waiver for being a UCF employee. It's a little different.
Good questions. And you can unmute yourselves if you have a question as well.
I have a question.
Sure.
Is there any possibility to open up a spot on one of the core classes? Since I was given a really late appointment for registration.
Depends if it's my class or not, I guess.
Which class, Christian?
I'll take anything.
Are you not registered for anything?
I have one,
Okay.
which is an elective, but since I was given this registration really late, I couldn't jump in any course.
So there are seats open in XPhys 1, PET 5355, which is a core class, and you can take that.
Okay, I didn't know. Did that recently open?
Yeah, we just recently opened seats in there. There should be a few seats in that one. And if it fills, just let me know. We'll see what we can do. We have some leeway with that class.
Awesome.
Let me check the online thing. Nothing there. Anybody else? We're here. Please ask away. Don't be shy.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
So in accordance to the fall semester coming up for the classes, we are doing in person?
Yes, we are.
Okay, thank you.
Some of your classes, look at the mode of instruction, because some of them are mixed mode. I mean, some of the time is dedicated in person in a classroom and some is online. So check your courses and make sure you actually click on the hyperlink of the course section, because it'll give you the dates that you meet on campus. So you don't necessarily meet every single week. Make sure you check your dates. And if you have questions about that, please email me and I'll be happy to send you the dates.
All right, cool. Thank you.
Can you discuss some differences between fellowships and assistantships and possible opportunities?
Yeah, sort of. The fellowships, and maybe Renetta can help me with this if I'm misspeaking, but a lot of times from a program perspective, from kinesiology perspective, fellowships are things that as people are applying that we can nominate them for. And assistantships are typically, like for us specifically, the assistantships are usually related to some sort of teaching opportunities that will help give them a tuition waiver and a little bit of a stipend. And usually they're also engaged in research in one form or another. There are assistantships in other places on campus. I think that Lana may have just sent out an opportunity through another office on campus. They're also sometimes available through the Rec and Wellness Center, occasionally through athletics and that sorts of things. But the fellowships tend to be academic related, and the ones that I know that we nominate people for are typically during the application process. We also will have some scholarships. We'll have a graduate scholarship that will come, actually at least 2 of them that will come available, I think, for applications in the spring. And please apply for it. We've actually had not enough people apply in the past. So look for those, plan to apply, and be ready to submit your materials for that. Renetta, is there, maybe you give some more clarifications on fellowships?
Can you hear me?
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, a fellowship is basically a scholarship. We typically use the term fellowship for graduate offers to graduate students, but it doesn't include a work requirement. And usually, like Dr. Fukuda said, those are offered to students when they apply to the program as basically an incentive to get some of the top students come to the university. but the assistantship has a work requirement. Usually you work on campus 10 to 20 hours a week, and you receive a stipend that's paid to you in the form of a biweekly paycheck. So there's a work requirement with an assistantship, and then usually the assistantship includes some tuition support. There are several of those around campus. The program, like Dr. Fukuda said, may have a few from year to year, but you can also look around campus to see if there are any available.
Yeah, so like, for example, our assistantships that we have available or have given out for this year involve working in the faculty and staff gym and serving as a TA for some of our undergrad courses.
The next question is, are there any scholarships for this graduate degree? And in the chat, I put the link to the scholarship website. So if you guys want to copy that. And like Dr. Fukuda said, we've had, multiple years where not enough people apply for these scholarships. So definitely apply. And you can search by kinesiology as well. Let's see. Are we able to graduate in 4 semesters? That's a really good question. I will say that has happened in the past, but again, due to course availability, we typically say 4 to 6 semesters, I would say, Dr. Fukuda. Is that typical?
Yeah.
5 to 6, 5 to 7.
5 to 6 is probably better. I know the 4 things have happened, but I wouldn't come in banking on that.
Yeah. Anybody else?
And just to kind of go back to the scholarships question, Dr. Fukuda, you said that that's usually in spring semester. Did I hear you right?
Yeah, is that when the deadline is for the kinesiology grad scholarship? I'm trying to actually find it on this list here.
I thought it was.
I think it's offered with all the other foundation scholarships where the students apply for it in spring, and then it's awarded for the fall semester.
Yeah.
So you submit the application during spring semester, and if you receive it, you would actually get the scholarship then in the fall.
So it actually may not be on this list right now.
Yeah, I don't see it.
That's how the other foundation scholarships work. So I'm assuming that's what you're talking about.
It is on the same cycle as those, yes.
Okay. So for this fall coming up, it wouldn't be an option for incoming students this fall or spring. But but for spring, you could apply for it and receive the money next fall.
The next question, is there a possibility of reverting back to virtual due to COVID? So I guess that's always a possibility potentially. We have not heard anything about going back to virtual yet. Everything is currently business as usual. As far as we know.
As we know, you will know, because we're going to have to be scrambling around to change a bunch of stuff. So.
In regards to COVID, what is the UCF policy on like masks? Like, what if you're vaccinated and all that stuff?
Good question, Spencer. Currently, the UCF policy is that there is no mask mandate, but masks are encouraged, especially indoors.
Yeah, at this point for like the classes, like within the classrooms, there's not spacing like there was last year. So last year they did have spacing throughout the classrooms and that sort of thing. And as far as I understand it, that's not going to be the case this year.
Anybody else? I don't see any other questions coming in. Oh, wait. If you want 2 straight years, including summers, would it be enough time to complete the degree? So I'm assuming that you mean 6 semesters, and that should be enough time to complete the degree. Again, with course availability. We always want to say that. If I read your question correctly. Are 2 classes a semester considered half-time? I'll let Renetta answer that one.
In fall and spring, yes, full-time enrollment is 9 credit hours. So 6 credits would be half-time or meet the requirement for half-time. And in summer, 3 credit hours meets the requirement for half-time.
Would they be Zoom recording classes due to COVID? That is up to the individual instructor, so do check your class notes and the course syllabus, but I don't believe so, right, Dr. Fukuda? Depends on the instructor.
Yeah, it depends on the instructor. I mean, there's not even, it's likely that there won't even be a Zoom option for the lectures.
The next question is, are parking permits required to park on campus? You are required to either purchase a semester pass, an annual pass, or you can purchase a daily pass, but that could probably get a little expensive. But yes, and then you can just go to parking.ucf.edu, and I can put that in the chat as well. These are great questions.
I will add to that, if you don't want to buy a parking permit, you can park in Research Park and ride the shuttle to campus. There is no requirement for a parking permit in Research Park. So if you park there, then you can ride the shuttle to campus if you wanted to do that. That's an option.
Where is that? Where's Research Park?
South of campus.
Yeah.
Right behind, if you know where the water tower is on campus, you turn at the water tower and go out by the, between the water tower and the swimming pool and the fitness wellness center, and go out that road.
Actually, you might be kind of careful. There might be some places you can't park out there. I'm not sure, but.
The labs, maybe.
I think the parking lot's where the shuttle picks up. You could look into that, but I think you can park there without a parking permit, at least in some of the lots. But then you have to keep up with the schedule, the shuttle schedule. So,
anybody else? I'm not sure. We are taking attendance just to make sure that everyone's here. The person that has iPhone, will you just message me privately and let me know who you are so I can count you for attendance, please?
Is that me speaking right now?
No, Emily, you're named.
Okay, perfect. I'm on my iPhone, so I wasn't sure.
Oh, okay.
Thank
No,
you.
it actually says iPhone as the name.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Emily. We got you.
The other scholarship that will probably come available in the spring is called the Jeffrey Law Memorial Scholarship, in addition to the Kinesiology Graduate Scholarship. So there's at least two that are somewhat specific to our program.
Okay. We do have another question. Is parking enforced on the weekends? I'm going to go with parking is enforced all the time on this campus. That's just my opinion. So yes, I would say yes to that. And then we have,
if you have a parking permit, a student permit, you can park in faculty and staff parking after 5 o'clock or on weekends, but you still have to have a student parking permit to park anywhere on campus anytime.
I think we have another question. Is there a specific day for classes? So our classes, like Dr. Fukuda was saying, are typically in the evenings from 6 to 8:50. And we usually have classes on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. We don't have class on Fridays. Are there any classes that are fully in person or only mixed mode options? That's a good question. Yes, Dr. Fisher's class is fully face-to-face, which is PET 5216. And I think the others are all mixed mode.
Probably.
Yeah.
I have a question. It's somewhat thesis related. I know you have sent emails before during the summer for like those of us that are like interested in thesis and for faculty that's looking for students to work under them for a semester. Will there be more of those in fall and spring?
More emails?
Yeah, like more emails for like teachers that are looking for students that want to participate and work under them in those studies. Will there be more of those?
That's a good question. I don't know for sure. if there will be. Hopefully once we have a little bit more of these like in-person classes, you'll be able to engage with people a little bit more, and it might be easier to have that communication. The other thing that I'm trying to work on in the background here is we actually do have a number of graduate faculty that aren't necessarily in kinesiology. So some in health sciences, athletic training, physical therapy. So I'm trying to figure out a good process to connect people who might be interested with faculty. So it tends to be that the kinesiology faculty, they're the most visible. So they're already sort of brought on people to work on thesis projects. So some of these other ones that aren't as visible may have some opportunities. So I'm trying to figure out a way to connect everybody. So I'm hoping that'll happen this fall. And if not,
Okay.
you can keep bothering me, and it doesn't bother me. Sorry, I should say. Keep pressing me and asking the question, and I'll keep working on it.
Okay. And since I am interested in thesis, if I have any more questions, I can email you or Lana.
Yeah. Actually, Dr. Hill reached out to me about, I think, an email you may have sent. So
yeah,
it's on my radar for sure. But yeah, feel free to email me, or we can set up a time to talk.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
We have another question. I don't think we've ever gotten this one before, Dr. Fukuda. Can you pursue a thesis option after completing a non-thesis option first? Renetta, I don't know. I don't know how that would work. I don't think that would work.
I guess it depends on what that question entails. Is that like if you did a practicum, can you still do a thesis, or is it you've completed your whole master's with a thesis, with a non-thesis, and then you come back and try to get another master's with the thesis option? Well, I actually don't know the answer for the second one, but the first one, I guess technically you might be able to use the practicum as an elective or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know.
You cannot complete the program with a practicum, for example, and then return and complete the program again with a thesis by just completing the thesis. You can only complete the program once. The university doesn't have any restriction on students taking more classes than are required for the degree program. So the degree is 36 credit hours. If you did the practicum and completed your 36 credit hours and then chose to do a thesis on top of that for another 6 credit hours and graduated with 42, the university that would not restrict that. It would depend on the program and the resources available to support you. But there isn't a university restriction on students taking more classes than required. Very few students want to take more classes than are required. And if you exceed the number by over, I think, 50%, then financial aid will question it. But you could take an additional 6 credit hours without it being questioned.
We have another question. If we get a graduate assistantship position, does it last until we graduate, or is it only for a year? And that would really depend on your whoever hired you, whatever program or division or department hired you. So you would need to check your contract or talk to your potential supervisor. Let's see if there's anything else coming through.
I have one more.
Sure.
So in order to pursue the anatomy specialist certification, you gotta be accepted. And I just found out that there's a list of coursework that you have to get done before. Are you allowed to take any of those as you are a master's student? Because some of those are undergraduate classes, like anatomy.
They shouldn't be.
No, they shouldn't be undergrad.
Oh, for the prereqs to get accepted. So you need 8 hours of anatomy or physiology in order to be accepted into it. And I'm assuming that's undergrad.
So you're saying you would want to take some of those undergrad courses to try to fulfill. So I guess I should step back. The anatomical sciences specialization is actually technically separate from the certificate program. They could be combined potentially. So it's sort of a matter of if you can get accepted into the specialization within our program. It'll be a similar review process. So I don't know for sure what the requirements are going to be for that piece of it. But if you're also asking, can you take an undergraduate course while you're in the master's program? I don't think there's anything stopping you from doing that, but you won't get credit towards the master's degree for it.
Right.
Renetta can fix that probably from whatever I just messed up when I told you. But
You're absolutely correct.
Okay.
The university doesn't have any restriction on a graduate student taking an undergraduate course. Your financial aid will not pay for it. You get your financial aid amount, and you could use it to pay, but you can't use it toward your non-credit hours to count for full-time enrollment.
Would you have to apply differently in order to register online, or just by being a master's student, you're given access to undergraduate classes?
Depending on the class, it may have a prerequisite of admission to a particular undergraduate program. So you might need an override for it, or a permission from the department offering the class in order to enroll. If it's an open class, then you could probably register for it.
Got it. Thank you.
I have a question about textbooks. Do we need to purchase any prior to class starting?
It sort of depends on the faculty member. I think for the most part, you may not need to. I don't know if you're going to need them at what point, because a lot of them that are mixed mode, it's sort of hard to tell if, like, for example, my class, we don't actually meet for like 3 weeks in, but you may need the textbook for stuff that's online before that. So you're just gonna have to check with the faculty member.
Okay.
I might give just one more thought about the thesis option, because there's a couple of questions about that. There's a research methods class that's in the fall. One good way to potentially sort of maybe get noticed or try to get on people's radar as far as the thesis goes is to do a really good job in that class, not just because I'm teaching it, but also because if you can spend that time sort of developing a project that may be related to something that's going on within our program, then that's a good way to sort of show I'm really interested in this. I've already sort of developed it, that sort of thing. And then you can share that with a faculty member. Depending on, I honestly don't know how the structure is going to go as far as presentations goes at the end, but I like to open it up so that other faculty can see what you all have worked on. So that's one way to sort of maybe stand out a bit. And for example, like this year, I brought on 2 students that were already in the program that were sort of starting their second year as GAs to do a thesis option. Not everyone's doing that, but that's just one way to sort of maybe have yourself stand out and make my life easier in the fall too. But
I have a question just about for the mixed mode classes. So the days that we won't be meeting, because I know they are specified on what days we'll be meeting in person, will there be a Zoom session?
Well, Desiree, there are meeting dates for your graduate classes that are mixed mode. And
yes,
they are in the schedule.
Yes, that I understand. So
okay. So you're saying on the dates that you're not meeting in person?
Correct. Because I know
there should not be.
Okay.
I would check when web courses comes available and double check on the syllabus for the course, because there's a lot of internal things going on with the way that the courses are being presented to you all that has changed over time. So it gets, Lana and I were just talking about, it gets confusing to figure out how we're supposed to show the courses with all the different attributes and what they mean. And sometimes I don't think the faculty always quite understand it either. So I would just double check right when right when that opens up and clarify with the faculty member. But for the most part, it should be those classes are the days that will be either in person or live in one form or another.
Okay, thank you.
And going along those lines, make sure when you're right before classes start, make sure you're checking your dates. You don't want to show up on, a Monday night class and that Monday night class doesn't start until the following week. So make sure you check your dates. It's in my UCF and it should be in your class schedule. But if you have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me and I can give you the dates. And also check the room, because rooms do change. So make sure you check the room as well. The day before, the day of, don't come all the way to campus and park in classroom building 1 and your room has changed to teaching academy and you have to walk. So make sure you do that as well.
Like, for example, if you are in my class for the fall, that research methods course, the classroom's going to change probably in the next week.
Yeah, like it's currently in the teaching academy and it'll probably change over to health sciences potentially. But like Dr. Wells's class, his XPhys 1 just moved. If you're registered for that, make sure you check the room assignment. It was in the teaching academy and it's no longer in the teaching academy.
We try to give a heads up, but sometimes
yeah,
it gets lost a little bit. Who's doing it.
We have another question. Is PET 5216, which is motivational aspects of coaching, is that every Monday? And yes, that one is every Monday. So that one meets every Monday between 6 to 8:50, unless Dr. Fisher says otherwise, but you expect to be in class on Monday.
I had a question about Monday evening classes. So Labor Day, does that class, does it just get cut off or does it get switched to a new day?
Correct. It gets cut off.
Okay.
Yeah, make sure, that's a good question, actually.
Veterans Day is like that as well. There won't be classes.
Yeah,
Okay.
make sure you check your, and I'll put that in the chat as well, because at the bottom of the calendar, the UCF calendar, you'll see all of the holidays, which includes like Thanksgiving and the Christmas holiday, where you don't obviously have class.
There's a question here in the chat about, does the university use Canvas for its online teaching and assignments? Yes, it does.
Mm-hmm.
Branded as web courses, but it's Canvas.
There's also a campus football game on a Thursday night where class is being canceled, so make sure you're aware of that. It's later in the semester. Their faculty will let you know, but FYI.
Yeah.
Lots of good questions.
Yeah. Anybody else? Anything else?
I have a quick question.
Sure.
For a few of my courses, like for example, the XPhys 1, I have it with Dr. Wells. It has a few different start dates. Like it'll say the 24th of August and it'll say the 7th of September for like different lectures though.
Right. So the dates that you see listed are the only dates that you have to meet on campus.
Okay, so it has like 5 different dates. So those are the only dates that will be okay, cool.
Correct. Those are
That
the
can get a
dates.
little confusing. the way
Yeah,
you-
I know those are confusing. I agree. So typically the semester would normally run August 23rd to December, what have you. And you would meet, let's say, every single Monday. But for instance, like Dr. Fakuta's class, I think has 8 dates. Dr.
6 or 7.
6 or 7 dates. So you do want to check when you access your course schedule, there's a hyperlink and you can click on that and it'll open up more information. And that'll show the actual dates that you come to campus. Again, if you can't figure it out or you need help, you can just send me an email. I'll be happy to send you those dates.
All right, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. I don't see any other questions.
So I did want to ask really quick. So you said if there's a football game on a Thursday night, classes are canceled, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so the Boise State game, I believe, is going to be played on a Thursday night, so classes would be canceled that evening?
More than likely,
Okay.
That
yes.
is correct. The university will close at 2:00 that day.
Okay.
They've already sent the announcement out.
It's my class that's that night too, and it is. We don't have class that night.
Okay.
Yeah, like the holidays. So Labor Day, if you have a class on Mondays, you won't go to class on that date. So if you have like Dr. Fisher on Monday, September 6th, you wouldn't attend. If you have a Thursday class, you wouldn't meet on November 11th, but typically Dr. Fukuda teaches on Thursdays and he specified the dates that you would meet. And again, there's no Thanksgiving.
The other one is on a Friday night, right? The other football game, I think it is.
Is it? It's not on the calendar. Am I missing?
Yes, it's on a Friday night.
Oh, I see it. Here it is. It's under special events. If you go to that link calendar.ucf.edu and scroll all the way down, it's at the end. I don't see any more questions. Anybody else? We're here. Ask away.
I have one more question. All right. And I know from the poll that you guys sent, you guys are, it was just like, just to get a feel for the different time periods that people would be available to take classes. So that's just like, it's not anything for sure. it'll just be something in the future just to look at?
Yeah, we're looking at an additional elective, like a new course that could be offered in the spring. So we're just trying to figure out where it would be. And it's also actually could be a course that's partially lecture and partially lab based. So yeah, just trying to get a feel for like where we can get the most bang for our buck as far as like getting students enrolled in the course.
Okay, gotcha. But more than likely from here on out, all our courses are going to be in the evenings.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're not going to stray away from that too much. This would just be an additional course.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
There's another question. Is there group study? Not sure if I understand that.
Like study groups external to the classes or like group projects within courses? Depending.
I'm not sure.
I guess I can answer both of those. There's no formalized like groups as far as the program goes. As far as I know, people may do it informally, but there's no formal version of that. Not for any particular reason, I don't think. And then for the most part, I think a lot of our classes, because our class size is growing and everything else, so typically are group projects within the courses. Not just because the course sizes are bigger, also because that's kind of how the world works, right? We have to be able to figure out how to work together in teams.
Anyone else?
Well, I know there's a lot of things changing with health precautions and that sort of thing, but I'm looking forward to seeing people in person. Some of you guys I had in the online class over the summer. It's not quite the same as seeing people, so looking forward to it. Thank you all for spending time with us tonight.
We have one more question. Would there be any open spots for fall classes other than the ones that are available now? And that would be no. Like there are no additional classes going to be offered in the fall.
Yeah, if you're interested in specific seats in some classes, you can send us an email and we can figure out, try to see. Part of it has to do with room capacities, amongst other things. But if we know enough about what people need, we can try to figure out alternatives. So yeah, we're not going to add any additional courses for the fall, but if there are seats needed in certain courses, shoot myself or Alana an email and we'll try to see what we can figure out.
So earlier I asked about the website for us to see the research that is being done at the moment. I think you shared the one for the practicum.
Yeah, I can put that in the, I'll put it in the.
Yeah. Thank you.
Make sure it's containing everybody's stuff here. So this isn't everything on campus. This is everything in our college in the link here. We're good with the questions?
I think so. I don't see anything else coming through.
Well, appreciate you spending time with us tonight. Feel free to email, call, whatever you need. We're here to help you sort of work your way through the program, and we're excited to have you.
Yeah, thank you guys. For the ones that I haven't connected with for plans of study, you'll be hearing from me in the next week or so. There's only a few of you left, but I'm trying to work my way through everybody. But if you have any questions in the meantime, please don't hesitate to reach out. That's what we're here for. I'd rather you ask all the questions and not ask any questions. So please just let us know if we can do anything for you.
Oh, sorry. I think I did the link just to Lana for whatever reason. Let me send it one more time. For the research study.
Thank
All
you.
right. Everyone have a good night.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night, guys.
Bye-bye.